Welcome to this explainer. We're diving into a truly fascinating piece of source material today. It's a text from 2007 by an author named Diaform Celestial, and it presents this incredibly detailed, systematic framework that actually claims to map out exactly how you can predict your next life. Seriously, it's this wild blend of philosophy, theology, and some very strict cause and effect rules. My goal here is just to neutrally walk you through this exact framework and unpack how the author connects our everyday mental and physical actions to, well, highly specific afterlife destinations. Let's just jump right into it. Because think about it, we usually see the afterlife as the ultimate unknown, right? A complete mystery. But the core premise of this guidebook flips that idea totally on its head. According to these teachings, the afterlife is actually a highly predictable event. The whole philosophy suggests that if you can just understand and examine the underlying structural state of your own existence right now, predicting where you go next isn't a guess. It's a clear-cut certainty. And this logic hinges on the idea that predictability is literally built right into the fabric of nature. I mean, when a baby is born, we can predictably map out their physical life, right? Childhood, youth, middle age, and finally old age. Celestial also points to the seasons. We know for an absolute fact that summer follows spring and winter follows fall. So this exact same scientific predictability is applied to our spiritual journey. The argument is that, as long as we know our current situation, we can perfectly forecast our next phase of existence. To see how this all actually works, we're going to map out this guidebook step by step. We'll hit on how consciousness decides existence, the rules of reincarnation, actions and consequences, how to compensate for past wrongs, and finally, reaching the celestial worlds. Okay, let's start with Section 1, Consciousness Decides Your Existence. This is really the foundational philosophy of the entire framework. The crucial thing here is how the author actually defines consciousness. In this specific framework, it's not just your moment-to-moment awareness. No, it's defined as the absolute essence, the non-material structural state of life. Obviously, you can't see the structure with your naked eye. So the only way to examine it and predict your afterlife is to look deeply inward. Basically, whatever shape your inner world takes, your next life is going to mirror that exact shape. To really ground this concept, the author shares a story about a visit to the Yuyang terraces in Yunnan, observing the elderly Han people who were enduring a pretty hard life in an isolated valley. So when asked if they'd be free of this valley in their next life, the answer from Fashan Celestial was a flat no. He said they're going to reincarnate in that exact same hard valley, simply because no other world exists in their consciousness. Unless they actually desire to leave and learn about the outside world, their mental state literally traps their physical future. Which brings us to Section 2, the rules of reincarnation. Let's look at the strict rules outlined in the text. The author kind of builds on René Descartes' famous "I think, therefore I am," but here it's taken incredibly literally. If it's not in your consciousness, it does not exist. For example, the guidebook claims it can lead followers to a heavenly destination called the Celestial Islands Continent. But how? Well, by painstakingly infusing the specific details and lifestyles of that realm into your consciousness. The rule is super straightforward. If you want to end up there in the afterlife, you have to fully build that destination inside your mind first. Moving right along to Section 3, Actions and Their Consequences. So, if consciousness builds the destination, how do our physical daily actions map out? The text leaves zero ambiguity here. It lays out these exact karmic outcomes. For instance, murder, that sends you straight to the inflamed or frozen layers of the hell world. Abusing life sends you to the netherworld. And it gets astonishingly specific. Oppress others, swindle, or steal, and you're headed to the animal world. If you kill a bunch of dogs, you will actually become a dog. Owe unpaid debts, you're going to the livestock world. And get this, if you simply love freedom but remain ignorant, the guidebook asserts you'll be reincarnated as a bird. The author insists this is an exact scientific correlation. Let's look at a few other destinations. If you're a kind, hardworking person who loves your family and culture, the framework says you'll just continue to be reborn as a mortal human. Got unfulfilled wishes? Those act like an anchor, bringing you right back to the mortal world to finish them up. But there's a huge warning here. If you resort to sorcery, use a lot of sarcasm, or simply, quote, talk nonsense, you will be transformed in the next life into a ghost, demon, or monster. Seriously, talking nonsense has a heavy price here. To back up this really rigid system, the author actually pulls from the teachings of Jesus Christ, emphasizing that leaving even a single penny of unpaid debt physically tethers your life force to the mortal realm.
Basically, you absolutely cannot transcend if you have outstanding moral, emotional, or financial debts. You're stuck. Okay, if that rapid-fire list of karmic pitfalls sounds a little terrifying, don't worry. Section 4 is all about compensating for past wrongs. The guidebook gives a highly specific 3-step blueprint for course correction to avoid those lower realms. Step 1, you have to read a text called Life's 18 Qualities to understand the deep internal differences between people. Step 2, you must intensely investigate your past. You use the Supreme Book of Rewards and Punishments to literally write out a list of your faults. No sweeping things under the rug here. And step 3, you have to actively make amends and compensate for every single fault on that list. So, how do you actually do that? Well, the compensation has to be incredibly direct. If you harmed an animal, you must henceforth love animals. Harmed a person? You must love people. Owe an emotional debt? Pay back that exact emotion. Got financial or moral debts? Pay them back and actively ask for forgiveness from anyone you wronged. Also, followers are told to perform merits according to Buddhist teachings, specifically focusing on formless almsgiving. Do enough of this, and apparently, you can erase debts that have piled up over many generations. Finally, we hit Section 5, Reaching the Celestial Worlds. Let's look at where you end up if you manage to clear the slate. For those who completely clear their conscience and perfect their non-material structure, the philosophy outlines 4 distinct utopian realms. The first is the 1,000-year world. But getting here is tough. You have to actively eliminate fundamental mortal concepts from your consciousness. We're talking about stripping away your attachments to family, to your nation, culture, and even religion. You just have to love freedom, experience joy, and have absolutely zero debts in the mortal world. A step above that is the 10,000-year world, and the criteria get even more ethereal here. The framework says you reach this realm if your consciousness is so elevated that you frequently dream of freely flying. Plus, you must exist in a constant, unbroken state of pure joy, entirely free of and without the need for physical sexual contact. Then we have the third high realm, the Elysium world. The requirement for this one is surprisingly concise. You just need to possess pure Buddha consciousness, which will guide you directly to this corresponding world. In this framework, it basically represents a state of total enlightenment and spiritual perfection. And finally, we reach the ultimate destination, the Celestial Islands continent. This realm is strictly reserved for those who revere the greatest creator and revere life itself. But it goes a step further. To reach this absolute pinnacle, you must have obtained actual supernatural powers and have the ability to fancy or mentally manifest an ideal world. It's really the absolute capstone of this whole idea that consciousness dictates existence. The author notes that only you truly know what kind of non-material structure your life has achieved so far, which leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought experiment. If, as this framework insists, your inner consciousness and your daily actions dictate your entire future existence with scientific exactness, exactly what kind of afterlife are you building for yourself right now? It's absolutely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world and the consciousness around you.